Well, free rent and utilities for a year could be coming for hundreds of people experiencing homelessness in Denver.
Denver 7's Brandon Richard shows us how the program works and why there are growing concerns, though, about how the city will pay for it.
Well, some Denver City Council members say they support this idea, at least in theory, of rapidly rehousing people experiencing homelessness and supporting them by paying their rent and utilities for up to a year. But they were concerned about how the city is going to pay for this program over the long term, and they were not happy with the answers they were getting.
But come on, this is bordering on ridiculousness now. It's embarrassing not to be able to tell a constituent what this costs.
The mayor's senior homelessness advisor, Cole Chandler, got an earful from Denver City Council Wednesday about plans for a new homelessness program.
This is a program that Host and has intended to deploy for some time.
Instead of moving unhoused people into temporary housing, the program, known as Street to Lease, would move them directly into permanent housing.
And what's amazing is that we're doing that within 30 days. And so it's a very fast operation.
The city began testing the program earlier this year when it moved 12 people from a small encampment into housing. The city now wants to spend $5 million to expand the program to help 250 people. Most of the money would pay for their rent and utilities for up to a year.
I do have some concerns on what the outcomes are going to be and how are we going to get people to that sustainability where they can actually pay their own rent.
Council members also want to know how the city will pay for this and other programs long term, with pandemic funding running out and other city agencies cutting their budgets due to the immigration crisis.
So we're evaluating that as we look forward into the 2025 and 2026 and beyond budget.
We need to know how we're going to fund this. We just can't talk about it.
Where are we going to get funding next year or the following year? And are we just going to be dealing with a ton of evictions 12 months from now?
Despite no clear answers on that front at the moment, council did vote to advance the request, with some members saying they're still on the fence about giving it final approval. Brandon Richard, Denver 7.
So that $5 million, you divide that by 250 people, that's $20,000 per person. Council members say they also want to know how much the Johnson administration is spending on all of the all-in mile-high homelessness initiative. City leaders promise to have those questions answered by the end of June.
Let's take this in depth tonight. There is a precedence for programs like this. Back in December, Denver 7 visited Houston to study its Street to Permanent Housing program, which Houston calls the Way Home. In 2011, Houston had the 5th highest homeless population in the nation, with 9,000 people living on the streets. Now that number is estimated to be less than 3,000 people. And it was one of the most ambitious housing initiatives ever attempted in a major U.S. city. The strategy was and still is simple: shut down encampments and put people in permanent residences.
A real unit, not a tiny home, not a box, not a shelter. A real unit with a key and a lock and a lease in the person's name, which requires accountability. We didn't just scatter these people into the woods. They have been housed.
Put the keys in my hand, and that started me from out under the bridge to having some type of solid permanent residency.
Houston put together a group of more than 100 public and private entities, including nonprofits, businesses, and philanthropists. They took a divide and conquer approach where nonprofits take a few dozen clients each and work to find them housing in vacant apartments and single-family homes across the 3-county Houston metro area.